Well, welcome back, everybody. I hope you guys are well and warm, kicking it fly. Today, again, I really wanted to thank everybody for the warm and well response that has occurred over the course of the last few weeks. This is really what I had in mind when I started this show. I kind of was hoping that there would be a positive response from men and dads alike, and it's safe to say that that's exactly what's happened. People have been asking me what I've been working on, what kind of projects I've got on the go, and this one is probably my favorite one of them all. It seems to be every time I start to discuss this podcast, there are a number of men that are in the same position or feel the same way that I do. And I didn't realize that this was as large of not necessarily a problem, but as large of a an experience than it really is. There are a lot of people out there that are missing that piece of themselves that that is often related to not having a dad. So, thank you to those that open up. Thank you to those that share their experience. I read all of your comments. I'm often logged in on different YouTube profiles at different times, so I'm either commenting on my own profile, on the daddy issues, but I'm reading everybody's comments and I'm trying to respond and put a thumbs up to everybody because I really want people to know that I really appreciate them coming over here and sharing their experiences. It means a lot. So today I I wanted to discuss something that's kind of been on my mind, and that is dealing with survivor's guilt. When I was a little bit younger, perhaps, just a teenager or even in my early 20s, I was lost. I really didn't know what my purpose was in life. I wasn't really good at school, wasn't really good at work. I really enjoyed friends. I really enjoyed life, but I couldn't figure out where I fit into the equation. And so I experimented with things, and drugs and alcohol and people. And I was on a mission to try to find what it was that represented me. And along the way, I had friends that joined the military. And joining the military was something that I had actively spent the majority of my life trying to avoid because I grew up in a military surrounding. Um, my dad was in the military. My friends inevitably joined the military. And I felt as if that was my path. That's where I was destined to end up in the military. And I did not want to be in the military. I seen what that did to my dad. I seen what that did to my family. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do that to myself. I didn't want to do that to a family. I wanted something different. But as I got older, a lot of my friends, it was inevitable that they were going to find their way into the military. It's what they knew. We were a bunch of dumb kids on a search for identity, and the military really made that search a lot easier. It was exhilarating. It was a challenge. As a young man running around with guns and playing in the bush. That spoke to you. But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. But my friends, on the other hand, they were gonna go, and the majority of my friends from that time of my life went to the military. Almost all of them, in fact. And I didn't. I didn't. I knew I didn't want to join the military, but I didn't know what I was good at. Digging ditches was probably really my only future. And so instead of going into the military, I actually decided to go to university. And I went all by myself. I didn't have anyone to help me out. I had to apply by myself. I had to get all my courses together by myself. I even had to get loans from the government all by myself. I had no assistance to getting into university. And that's something that I really think people do need assistance with because, you're trying to figure out what the rest of your future is going to be like. The most you need is someone to assist you with. And that's what your parents are for. But I went to university, and within a year, I had already started to lose some of my friends overseas. My best friend ended up getting killed overseas, and I was actually talking to him on Messenger not 2 days before he died. And I just remember telling him, that I respected him, I loved him, I appreciated the work he was doing, and couldn't wait to see him, and those kind of things. And then when I got the news that he was blown up by an IED uh, in the Middle East, it really sunk in that I don't think I made the right choice. My homies went overseas, died, and here I am sitting at home doing nothing. At this time, I'm pretty heavy into drugs. Trying to go to university. I'm floundering. First 2 years of university were an absolute waste. Never should have gone at that time, but I did. And I really started to think about, like, why am I still here? Shortly after that, I ended up losing a friend to drunk driving, and he was a good kid. He was a little reckless, but no more reckless than I was. So I kind of thought, okay, well, how come this guy, good guy, you know, bright future, he dies. He dies in a car accident, in a rollover while he was drunk. Again, I'm just asking myself, like, what am I doing right that's allowing me this opportunity that my buddies didn't get? And so this is a weight that really, really sat on me for a very long time. And it wasn't until I was probably, in my mid 20s that, I cleaned up. I was no longer on drugs. I got off drugs right about 22, 23. And I decided I was going to go see a therapist. And, with the help of my wife and my support system, I went. And at first, I was a little skeptical because I was worried that I was going to be smarter than my therapist, and whether or not that was going to be true, I wasn't sure, and I was very skeptical in that. I was going to analyze my psychiatrist, my therapist, what have you, and I was going to do more of the thinking than she was, but nonetheless, I relented, and I went to this therapy session. And I remember walking in, and I was a little nervous, and it was a female therapist, and she sat me down, and I started to discuss the things that I was saying. Now I knew that I had daddy issues, and I figured that maybe there's something that I could do or someone I could talk to that would help me figure this out. And that was my purpose behind going to the therapist. And as I started to describe my situation, she asked questions, and she asked me, she's like, "Why do you think that you have, this guilt?" And I said, "I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm not worthy. Here I am. I'm here. My buddies are dead. I'm no better of a man than they are, and I'm trying to figure out why I'm here." And she made it make a lot of sense when she told me that you're dealing with survivor's guilt. It is a guilt that you burden yourself with because you're here and they're not. And when she told me this, it kind of took me by surprise because all this time I've been giving myself a hard time, and I was always trying to figure out why I was worthy to be in this position and they weren't. Why are they not here? What did I do? You know, to be given this opportunity when a lot of great men before me didn't get this opportunity. So I thought, okay, I get it. It is a survivor's guilt. That was the only session of that to that therapist that I ever went to, because her realization of my issues was a like big sense of clarity for me. I really realized, like, okay, it's guilt that I'm suffering from. I didn't. It made a lot of sense, but I didn't know. I just didn't realize that you know, I'm guilty, or I feel guilty because I'm given another chance and they're not. And there was like this little switch in my brain that went off that made me realize that, well, wait a second, let's convert that guilt into motivation. And it's not easy, but at that moment I realized that that's what I needed to do. I couldn't keep hanging on to this feeling of just disgust and unworthiness, because that's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair to me. But that's not fair to my homies either. That's not fair to my buddy that died overseas. That's not fair to my buddy that died in his car crash when drunk driving. And that's not fair to my buddy that OD'd. And that's not fair to my buddy that committed suicide. No, no. There's a little bit of them in me. The experiences, the relationships, the time that we spent together, that is valuable. That is exactly what I need to use to motivate myself to be the best damn human being, the best damn man, the best damn father and husband that I can be. I deserve it. They deserve it. So why not do it? And as I had discussed in other videos, it's like there is a fine line between using those negative thoughts as motivation and allowing those negative thoughts to consume you. You can't let that happen. You really need to be able to understand your weaknesses, but then use them in such a way that's going to allow you to motivate yourself to be the best version of yourself. And it's not easy. Like I said, it's a fine line between being depressed and being motivated. But it's crucial to be able to convert that energy, because I've been given another opportunity. I should be dead. I should be dead multiple times over. Not only should I have OD'd, I've been pretty damn close. Not only have I been close to just accidents where it's like I should have been dead. It's like I've put myself in almost every opportunity to be wiped off the planet, and I'm still here. That's not something to be guilty about or feel guilty about. That's something to motivate you. Not even the Lord himself has been able to smite me. So why not live in such a way that allows me to boost other people to be the best version of themselves? Why not use that to allow me to try to do great things? I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I don't think that's selfish. I think, in fact, I'm doing it. I'm doing it for someone else. I'm doing it for my friends. I'm doing it for my son, my wife, my family, my citizens, my community, and my country. That's how you need to live with survivor's guilt, because you can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. And maybe you suffer from it as well, in terms of, was it a father, a mother, a sister, a cousin, a friend, an aunt, an uncle, these kind of things. We've all lost someone. But we need to live in their name, rather than just to curl up and to just you know then to just crawl up and just become a big ball of insecurity. That's not fair. That doesn't do anything for you. That's not fair for them. That doesn't do anything for anyone. This isn't a pity party. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares about your feelings. Nobody wants to hear your woe is me story. But what you need to do is you need to play it for yourself. You need to remind yourself what's important. What are you doing this for? Because ultimately, when you can answer that question, you're going to live a lot happier. I discussed in my other video, the roles of a man. And these are these things that, you need to reiterate yourself. What do you need to do to be the best version of yourself? Me? I need to smile more. Okay, I need to smile more. I need to remind myself that there's a lot of things to be happy for, okay? And to soak it in. Soak it in. There's a lot of positivity out there that you don't have to ask for. You don't have to go looking for. It's there. It's there. And and it's in here. And it's a matter of tapping into that essence, and then pulling it out of yourself. And that's how you live with survivor's guilt. Because something positive has to come from it. We can't. This isn't a pity party. We have to be able to make something positive come from something so dark. So I would honestly say that the guilt that I live with is single-handedly one of the most influential feelings or emotions that I have. It's one of those emotions that I need to, or I've learned to appreciate, to acknowledge, and to address. Because this guilt that I have it transcends into other parts of my life. You know, when it comes to my son, for example, you know, as I've mentioned in another video, I question my fatherhood. I question my manlyhood. I question my existence always. And when I see my boy sleeping in his bedroom at the end of the night, and I walk by and I see him there so peacefully, I immediately start telling myself that you didn't do good enough today. You know, you're not great. You have mistakes. Your son deserves more. You know, you should have played catch a little bit longer. You should have hugged him a little bit tighter. You should have been willing to listen a little bit more. And I think that's healthy. But you have to know how to manage those feelings. Because as I said, there's a fine line between living depressed and living to motivate yourself. And if I just walked by my boy's room and I simply just, you know, told myself I'm a piece of shit and kept going, well, that's not healthy. That's not good for him. That's not good for you. That's not good for your wife. You need to address that, you know. And how do you address that? And for me, it's like every time I have an opportunity to think about my day and what I've done and who I've had a connection with, try to ask myself, there's three things that I can change every day. Three things. Which three things could I change to make myself a better person? You know, did I listen enough today? You know, did I smile enough today? Did I help? Did I hold the door open for someone today? Did I go out of my way to help, you know, make someone's day a little bit easier? These are things. I try to choose three every day. Three things to improve for the next day. Because I feel like it's one thing to criticize yourself, but it's another to use that as motivation. So I pose a question to you. You know, do you suffer from this kind of feeling? If so, how do you deal with it? Because for me, it's been a long journey on how to get to a point where I can use this feeling as motivation, but it didn't start that way. You know, it didn't start that way. I had to pull myself out of a lot of dark alleyways, a lot of dark corners, you know, a lot of rock bottoms I had to pull myself up from. And that's very important. You have to pull yourself up from these things. Often I don't think, you know, when you're in a very dark corner of your life, I don't think others are really the ones that you need to rely on. You need to rely on yourself. The other people aren't going to get you off drugs. They're not going to get you to quit drinking. They're not going to get you to stop gambling. They're not going to get you to, you know, to get your mind right. No, they're going to help you understand that you have a problem, but it's up to you to change it. It's up to you to try to find what it's going to take to overcome those problems. And if you have someone in your life who is suffering from some of these things, you know, someone who did suffer from addiction, there isn't a person on the planet that's going to make you change or make them change other than them. They have to want that change. And sometimes, as hard of a reality as it is, you've got to give up on those people. You know, and I don't mean giving up on them in terms of emotion or in terms of compassion, but I mean in terms of trying to extend a hand to pick them up. You know, some people can be picked up with a extended hand, but a lot of people can't, and a lot of people will just take advantage of that extended hand. So you need to be careful. You need to be understanding that these people have problems. They're not in their own mind, though. You know, with someone who's suffering from drug addiction, I've always said it's the drug that takes over that person. I am not the person I was back then, but that person I was back then had this person inside. I needed to discover him. No one else could have helped. And on that journey of discovery, I was able to find somebody who was able to love me unconditionally. Someone who was able to love me no matter what. And you know, that love was enough to pick me up and to make me realize that I was worthy. So So if you have anyone in your life that's suffering from either addiction or primarily addiction, that's what I suffered from. So I understand, that kind of feeling, but it's one of it's a double-edged sword. You want to help, but your help could ultimately lead them down a further path of destruction, because we end up enabling those that we try to help, and that doesn't do anyone any better. So we've got to be careful with that. But nonetheless, dealing with survivor's guilt is something that I think, more people deal with than I think are willing to admit. Whether it's from the passing of somebody, whether it's, living with the regrets or the choices that we made at a younger age, whatever it is, we must convert that energy. It's okay to feel guilty. It's okay to be hard on yourself. It's okay to expect more. But you have to understand that you are the vessel of your own journey, right? And if you sit there and blast holes into the side of your hull, you're going to sink, right? But if you test your structure and you test your load, you're going to be surprised with how much you can take and what you can turn that into. So, survivor's guilt. As I said, I want to hear from you. Is this something that you've been suffering from? Is it something that you've ever had to face or come across? Because I feel, as I mentioned, I feel like more of us are dealing with this than we like to allude to. I have lots to discuss in regards to men's issues, just issues in general, whether it's with fatherhood, whether it's just being a man, whether it's being a family man, a community man, a country man. Um, I want to dive deeper into these areas of interest. But I want to pose the question to you: is there an area of discussion that is important to you? Is there an area of discussion that you want to dive into? Um, Feel free to leave it in the comments section below. I'm only one man. I don't know what other men suffer from, but I think nonetheless that this could be a great place, a common square, our town square, if you will, for us to come and have a discussion. So that's that's all I really wanted to discuss today. I can't wait to hear back from you. This is Daddy Issues, episode 4. If you enjoy these episodes, throw a thumb if you wouldn't mind. It helps. And leave a comment. Until next time, much love, and take care of yourselves and your families. Peace.